Coming up on Falcon Weekly, U.S. Special Forces are hunting for the nation's most wanted terrorists. Find out how U.S. Special Forces captured one high-ranking al-Qaeda official in a daring raid over the weekend.
Plus an update on the UM staff member who was critically injured last week. Hear what caused him to have to be airlifted to UAB.
And capturing the crook, UM kicked off Founders Day festivities with the annual search for the crook. We've got a live interview with the students who were able to decode the clue. Falcon Weekly starts now. Hello and welcome to Falcon Weekly. I'm Andrew Meacham.
And I'm Amelia Bennett. Thanks so much for joining us. Today marks the 12-year anniversary of the start of the war in Afghanistan, and the U.S. is moving forward with plans to interrogate a suspected al-Qaeda operative who was captured during a pair of high-profile operations in Africa this weekend. Reporter Andrew Spencer tells us the man is believed to be linked to the bombings of 2 U.S. embassies in 1998.
Abu Anas al-Libi, one of the world's most wanted terrorists and an al-Qaeda operative, according to the Pentagon. His wife says a group of men in Libya's capital of Tripoli ambushed al-Libi as he returned home from morning prayers on Saturday.
They say there were 10 people, but I believe there were more than 10. I couldn't count them because there were many of them.
She says al-Libi left al-Qaeda in '96 and had no connection to the twin bombings of U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania in 1998. A federal grand jury in New York determined otherwise, indicting al-Libi and others believed to be linked in the attacks. A U.S. official says commandos from the U.S. Army's Delta Force captured al-Libi, who was then taken to a Navy warship. Al-Libi will be interrogated while still in military custody. CNN has learned the Obama administration has activated the High Value Detainee Interrogation Group, a team from several intelligence agencies led by the FBI. It's not clear when he might arrive in New York to face federal charges. Al-Libi's capture coincided with a weekend raid in Somalia targeting a commander of al-Shabaab, the group that claimed responsibility for last month's siege on a shopping mall in Nairobi, Kenya, that killed 67 people. Navy SEALs ran into heavy fire and had to pull out of the operation, not knowing whether their target was dead or alive. I'm Andrew Spencer reporting.
With most of the al-Qaeda leaders either captured or dead, the new leaders of terrorism are social media savvy, using secure chat rooms and websites to recruit new young operatives.
The government shutdown continues as we reach day 7 of the stalemate in Congress. The partial shutdown races ahead as we approach the October 17th deadline, where the United States will officially reach its cap on borrowing money and will need a decision. Sunlin Surfati has the latest from Washington.
The shutdown enters its second week, and it sure sounds like the stalemate is sticking around.
There's no way we're going to pass when the votes are not in the House to pass a clean debt limit. And the president is risking default by not having a conversation with us.
Today, a dare for the speaker directly from the president's mouth.
Then they should prove it. Let the bill go to the floor and let's see what happens.
The president visited FEMA today, one of the many agencies affected by the prolonged shutdown. And he says there is a bipartisan majority in the House to pass a clean spending bill without any attachments to health care.
My very strong suspicion is that there are enough votes there. And the reason that Speaker Boehner hasn't called a vote on it is because he doesn't apparently want to see the government shutdown end at the moment.
The bigger concern now, the riskier economic deadline just ahead. In 10 days, the nation will reach its cap on borrowing. Economists warn that a failure to raise the debt ceiling will result in Social Security payments, IRS refunds, Medicare reimbursements, and veterans benefits all being threatened, higher interest rates, and a slowdown in purchases of houses, cars, and anything else that requires a loan. The speaker says on this issue, too, the Republicans are united. They won't agree to raise the borrowing limit unless the White House agrees to some spending cuts with no new taxes. The growing feeling now on Capitol Hill, settle into this partial shutdown. It may stick around until Congress works out the bigger deal on debt. In Washington, I'm Sunlin Surfati reporting.
A new Gallup poll shows 7 out of 10 Americans view the shutdown as a major problem for the nation. So what are UM students saying about the government shutdown? I had the opportunity this week to go around campus and find out what's on their minds. Republicans and Democrats are trying to point the finger for the first government shutdown in 17 years. We went around campus today to get the students' opinion on what they think of the shutdown.
The longest they've ever really shut it down for was 21 days in the past, so it's going to get up and running again, and it's really not that big of a deal affecting me.
For one, I feel that it's actually probably necessary, simply because, as we all can see over the past few months, nothing's really been getting done as far as passing legislation, and everybody's just been putting stuff off.
I feel like the shutdown's just another empty threat, you know. It's something else that we have to deal with, you know.
We also asked students what they would say to those responsible for the government shutdown if they were given the opportunity to speak with them.
I would probably say a few choice words and tell them to get their act together and that they need to stop. Both sides need to stop just doing what the party tells them to do and to actually listen to what we want, because you're supposed to be representing us.
I tell all of them to stop being such stiff heads and just work together. Who cares, Democrat or Republican? Just do what's best for the country.
That this is ridiculous, this is stupid, and it's incredibly selfish, and this is not their job at all.
It's everything obvious that our country is recovering from a housing collapse, we're recovering from a recession. We're pretty much out of those two things. So let's not go back. Like, let's pass the legislation that needs to be done. Let's get stuff done instead of just prolonging stuff.
Another possible effect of the government shutdown is higher prices for dairy products. With Congress in a deadlock, they may not have an opportunity to pass a new farm bill in the coming weeks. That bill provides subsidies for dairy farmers who claim that without it, milk, cheese, butter, and other dairy products could double in price. That means a gallon of milk would skyrocket to close to $8, and many other food products would also see price hikes. If a budget is passed before the end of the year, higher prices for all goods at the grocery store will fall into effect in January. Families in Newton, Connecticut say they want to move forward with plans to build a new Sandy Hook Elementary School. The old school was the scene of a shooting massacre last December that left 20 children and 6 staff members dead.
The old school is expected to be demolished before the one-year anniversary of the shooting this December. Sandy Hook residents voted yes to a referendum asking to spend almost $50 million for a new elementary school. The state lawmakers set aside $50 million for the town. More than 5,000 residents showed up to vote, and about 4,500 people voted yes.
I believe the town needs it to heal and to go forward, and it always has to be there, so we could keep this event in our minds and go forward from here, keeping these children and administrators in our hearts always.
Plans for the new building are already in progress. Officials are hoping to have the new school open in January 2016.
Still ahead, Founders Day activities have already begun. Find out which students found the crook. Plus, we take a look at all of the exciting events that will happen later this week.
And moving to Main Street, we catch up with faculty teaching in the new UMOM building. Hear their reaction to the moving out of Jeter. Those stories and more when Falcon Weekly returns. Welcome back to Falcon Weekly. Montevallo's Founders Day is right around the corner.
Even though the official day isn't until Thursday, the university kicked off the Founders Day celebration this morning with the annual tradition of hiding the crook. But this year's search was over quick. Falcon Weekly's Heather Buckner joins us live with one of the students who found the crook. Heather?
Thanks, guys. I'm here with Andrew Fancher, Emily Wilbanks, and Mason. The first email that went to the students saying the crook had been found went out at 11. When did you guys find the crook?
Well, actually this morning we found it about 20 minutes after the email came out, because we were walking him, and I got it to my phone because my emails just go straight to it, and I read it out to him and he just immediately knew like where to go. So we were like, oh, I guess we're walking this way today.
How did you know from the clue that it was at Gloco?
Well, the clue made a reference to an old library. At first I thought it could be Will's, because I knew Will's was in the library on campus, and I reread it and saw it said beyond the gates. And Parnell Library is a place that was fond to my grandparents and myself growing up. I used to go there a lot for some of their programs and things like that. So I knew pretty much immediately after reading the clue.
Are you guys going to carve Mason's name into the stick too?
I think we're going to let him chew on it a little bit and let that take care of his name on there.
All right, well, thanks for joining us, you guys. Back to you.
Thanks, Heather. There sure are a lot of events happening this Founders Day.
That's right, Andrew. And here's a breakdown of Founders Day schedule. Founders Day begins Thursday at 11 a.m. with Michael E. Stevens' keynote address in Palmer Auditorium. A picnic lunch will be served on Main Quad at 12:30. Stevens will then hold a book signing in Reynolds at 2. Also at that time, the theater department will hold a performance of The Thugs in Chichester Theater. The Founders Day festivities wrap up with the life raft debate in Palmer at 7 p.m. More information continues to come in regarding a university employee who was critically injured on the job last week. Special equipment operator Jimmy Birchfield was attempting to hook a trailer to a tractor in the physical plant equipment yard when the tractor rolled over his chest. Birchfield was airlifted to UAB Hospital where he was in critical condition. The accident is still under investigation. Students were notified of the accident Thursday through the university's emergency alert system on their broadcast email accounts and via text messages.
The UM Police Department has a new cruiser in their fleet. Students may have seen the new Ford Explorer police vehicle patrolling campus this past week. UM Police hope new and improved SUV will help them to better serve students and faculty on campus. UM Police Chief Chad Adams says the university acquired the new SUV through a state fund and that we should see another police SUV on campus in the near future. Chief Adams said they had to go with a blue and gray color scheme because purple and gold weren't options.
The Department of Behavioral and Social Sciences is enjoying its new home, the University of Montevallo on Main building, or UMOM for short. Falcon Weekly's Nick Raymond caught up with faculty and students to see what they think about being in the newly renovated building.
For years, students and teachers have been trying to get the BSS department out of Jeter Hall. There were complaints made that the building was leaky and that there were sometimes even animals in the attic. This fall, those students and teachers have got their wish. In what was formerly known as the Alabama Power Building is University of Montevallo on Main, or UMOM, the new home of the Behavioral and Social Sciences Department, which includes 6 majors: history, political science, sociology, psychology, social work, and social science. Though psychology is still located in Comer Hall. Dr. Ruth Truss, the chair of the department, called the building a wonderful addition to campus.
It's nice to have a clean, fresh, new space, and so everyone seems to be enjoying it quite a bit.
The addition of UMOM to the campus also fixes other problems that many had to deal with at Jeter Hall. Dr. Truss says that UMOM is accessible for handicapped students, while in Jeter, classes would have to be moved to other buildings to make accommodations for students with physical disabilities. Though the reaction to the move has been mostly positive, one disadvantage of the building is the distance from the rest of the college campus, which could be a problem for some students.
It's definitely worth whatever limited inconvenience comes from it.
It's a little further out, but hey, there's nothing wrong with walking, and it just broadens our campus and it helps us integrate better with the town, and I think that's a very positive development.
The UMOM building, in addition to the new bookstore, are both part of the university's plan to better connect the university with downtown. Montevallo's Gender Sexuality Alliance, known as Spectrum, is celebrating National Coming Out Week. We talked with some Spectrum members to find out about some of this week's events.
Coming Out Week is basically just a celebration of pride, a celebration of being who you are and announcing it to the world, not hiding it, being proud of who you are and not being afraid to show it. This week Spectrum is doing coming out colors. Every day of the week we're wearing a different color of the rainbow to encourage people to show their support for National Coming Out Week.
Our overall reception of it is pretty good. People tend to enjoy the coming out stories the most. And it's really fun to do the colors every day.
Events for this year's National Coming Out Week at Montevallo include coming out stories on Monday night for Spectrum members, an information booth on Wednesday, and a viewing of Stonewall Uprising on Friday at 3:30 in Comer Auditorium.
Coming up, find out how one bank's glitch made a very lucky man into a temporary trillionaire.
And this weekend's weather has brought severe conditions throughout the U.S. We'll tell you how citizens are handling the weather. Plus, find out what's in store for Montevallo's forecast. Those stories and more when Falcon Weekly returns.
Welcome back to Falcon Weekly.
Neil Embry is here with our not-so-normal news. How's it going, Neil?
Doing well, thanks, Amelia. Some weird stories are making headlines. Let's take a look.
In a story that resembles the plot of Home Alone 2, a 9-year-old Minneapolis boy boarded a plane to Las Vegas and traveled the almost 1,300 miles to Sin City alone without a ticket. Officials say the boy came into the Minneapolis airport alone and passed through the TSA security checkpoints without raising suspicion. What's not clear is how he made it past the Delta ticket agent at the gate. Air transportation expert Terry Tripler said the situation highlights gaps in security, especially when it comes to children.
That 9-year-old child does not need identification, anyone under 18. So I can understand standing behind a family or whatever, if the family's checking in and they're not aware that he's standing behind them, I can understand that. I cannot understand the Delta gate agents. This is where I put the major problem. It happened there.
Luckily, what landed in Vegas won't stay in Vegas. Delta officials and the boy's mother are working on a plan to bring the child home. In other news, an East Texas man unexpectedly became a trillionaire after a bank accidentally deposited money in his account. Reggie Theus recently went to check the balance in his Bancorp South account. When he opened it, he found more than $4 trillion there. Theus logged in and out 8 times to make sure the money would still be there. Every time, it gave him the same numbers. The restaurant manager said he would use the money to help pay off the national debt. Sadly for Theus and the U.S. government, the bank realized their mistake and took the money back. While Theus wasn't able to keep his surprise money, a bartender in Oregon is holding on to the tip of her life thanks to a generous patron and some exceptional luck. Reporter Jessica Debus has the story.
It was a typical Trivia Tuesday at Conway's Restaurant and Lounge. Drinks, games, and hospitality.
Have a good weekend. It's just a very busy atmosphere.
Along with being a bartender here, Aurora Kephart also scans lottery tickets for hopeful winners. Kephart never thought that good fortune would fall back on her.
Not in my wildest dreams.
She says one of her regular Keno players tips her through unplayed tickets.
He buys multiple tickets and he'll hold out the tickets and say, pick which one you want.
Kephart played her cards right, because the payback was an unprecedented prize, $17,500, a tip she thought was too exceptional to take.
I automatically handed him back the ticket, and I was like, I'm sorry, I can't take it. And he had me sign it and said, you're the only one that can cash it now.
You know, you do things with the good heart, in good spirits, but when something is that big, I mean, also, you kind of wonder if they're going like, gosh, I wish I would have kept that one, and it's not that way with this guy at all.
Owner George Conway says if anyone is deserving of such a lavish gift, it's Kephart.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer individual, and it's really easy once you talk to her a little bit that you can really easily tell why somebody would want to be so nice to give her a ticket.
But Kephart is still pretty humble about it and scratching her head at how a regular night at work could turn into the luck of a lifetime.
Just took me off guard. You don't ever expect anything like that. I mean, it's fantastic. I kind of teared up and got misty-eyed.
The man who gave Kephart the winning ticket wished to stay anonymous. For now, Kephart says she plans to use some of the winnings to buy new couches for her home and then save the rest. When Kephart does decide to cash in her money, she may receive it in newly redesigned $100 bills. The Federal Reserve Board says the new currency will begin circulating on Tuesday, and the Benjamin looks a lot different than it used to. New security features include color-shifting ink that changes when the bill is tilted and a blue 3D security ribbon that makes it easier for people to authenticate and harder for counterfeiters to replicate. That'll do it for this week's Weird News segment. Join us next time for more not-so-normal news.
Thanks, Neil. Turning now to weather, this weekend brought in a mix of snow, some of the worst weather conditions, including tropical storms, tornadoes, and even a snowstorm.
A rare October tornado destroyed about a dozen homes in Wayne, Nebraska on Friday. Only a few people were injured and none were killed. A snowstorm in parts of Wyoming and South Dakota left several people stuck on ice roads, and nearly half of Rapid City, South Dakota was left without power for the weekend.
Meanwhile, Tropical Storm Karen was expected to be the biggest weather event this weekend, but the storm has slowed down along the Gulf Coast and isn't expected to turn into a hurricane. Just in case, officials are still on guard and citizens are stocking up on supplies.
Now it's time for a check of our Montevallo forecast.
Falcon Weekly's Margetta Thomas joins us with a look at this week's weather. So what's in store for us, Margetta?
Well, it looks like this week is probably going to be a little bit like today. It was really nice. The lows are in
about the 50s this morning, partly cloudy, but it's going to get up to about 75 today. And let's take a look at the graphic to see if this trend is going to continue, and it looks like it will. On Tuesday, it's going to get up to probably in the 70s, and probably the same way throughout the week. And on Friday and Saturday, it looks like we're going to have a good weekend. We're going to get up in the 80s and plenty of sunshine. So we're going to have a really nice weekend. No chance of rain or anything. So back to you guys.
Thanks, Margetta.
Lauren Altaffer joins us for a look at this week's sports. What do you have for us, Lauren?
Well, guys, Alabama is still #1 in the SEC. Hear about A.J. McCarron's new record set. And the boys with the wooden bats are playing for October. We have those stories and more coming up. Sports is next. Welcome back to Falcon Weekly. I'm Lauren Altaffer with a look at this week's sports. It was a dominating performance for the Alabama Crimson Tide's homecoming game. Nick Saban's squad was not challenged by the Georgia State Panthers. Bama dominated the line of scrimmage and continued to win and continue to hold the whole game from start to finish. The final score being Alabama 43 and Georgia State 3. McCarron's 93.75% completion is a new record, surpassing Ken Stabler's 84.2% set in 1966. The Tide rolls on to the University of Kentucky for Saturday's game at 6. The MLB postseason is in full swing. The boys are working to get one step closer to the World Series. Leading into Game 4 of the series, the Pittsburgh Pirates just beat the Cardinals and are now both in line for the NLCS going into Game 5. And going into Game 4 tonight, the LA Dodgers are just one win away from the NLCS. Also in today's Game 4, the Oakland A's defeated Detroit and are now one win away from the ALDS. Heading into Game 3 tonight, the Boston Red Sox are also one win away from the ALDS. Anything can happen in this postseason. For the Dodgers, they made history last night in last night's game against the Atlanta Braves. The 13 runs scored makes the most in Los Angeles postseason history. The last time the Dodgers had a tops of 12 runs was October 9th in 1974, and the battle continues. The chase for the Sprint Cup continues. The most competitive racing in NASCAR dominated and continues with the Southern Hospitality returns to Talladega Superspeedways starting off October 18th through the 20th. Well, that's it for this week's sports, and as always, tune in to Falcon Fever on Wednesdays to get the latest UM sports. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Lauren. Finally today, even Barbie has to obey the law. A Barbie Jeep was spotted parked in the wrong place in a Utah neighborhood, and that's when the real police got involved.
The bright orange ticket made it clear. The citation was for a Jeep, the owner Barbie. Turns out police have a soft spot for Barbie and her sister. This little Barbie, otherwise known as 7-year-old Autumn, was busy with school and friends. When asked how it ended up on the road after bedtime, no one knew. According to police, when a car blocks someone's driveway, it's towed away. This time, Dad and his 2 blonde Barbies are getting off easy. Dad says he's had his fair share of tickets, but this is definitely his favorite that he has received.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week's show. Thank you for joining us.
For more UM news, be sure to check out the Falcon News Network blog. The web address is on your screen. We'll see you again next week.